Hello everybody. My name is ProfRich, and in this video we're going to talk about vocabulary related to crime. Crime is a popular topic on many English exams, so we'll be looking at that today, and we're going to start off with a brainstorm. This is a good way to get your mind focused on any area of vocabulary. So if you are with us live for the class, then I want you to type in the chat, and if you're watching the video later, take a piece of notepaper and write down the words you know that relate to crime. So I want you to write vocabulary related to crime. What have we got? Let's do this for just 2 minutes. What words, phrases, verbs, adjectives, and nouns do you know related to the topic of crime in English? This topic often appears at B2, that's upper intermediate, or about 6.5 in IELTS, but it could also appear at B1 or C1. So we have criminal, which is the person who commits a crime. We have the judge. What's a judge, Sleepwalker? Can you tell us? We have robbery from Mina. Robbery. Forger, says Anawat. What's a forger, Anawat? Nobody will know what that is. Can you tell us what is a forger? There's other words for that person as well. Testimony. This is quite advanced stuff. Testimony, says Ashley Chen. What's testimony, Ashley Chen? Sleepwalker says a judge is the person who controls the court. I'm going to say person who makes decisions in court, because there are other people who control the court, like the security in the court and people who control different aspects of the court, but the judge is the person who makes decisions. Manuel Gordillo says embezzle. Smuggler. Smuggler is quite an old word, Manuel. Sentence, says Aulia. Sentence is a good one, and we've got that one today. Hijacker. Blackmail. Oh, blackmail. Sleepwalker. What does that mean, blackmail? Can you give us a definition of that? Verdict. That's another good one. So any of these words that you don't know, let me know and we'll talk about those a little bit later. So let's have a look at some words that I prepared. Robbery, theft, and burglary. So these words are sometimes used interchangeably, but there is a difference. Do we have any very clever people in the chat who can tell us the difference? And if you're watching the video later, then have a think about that and post your comments down below the video. What is the difference between robbery, theft, and burglary? I'll give you another 30 seconds before I give you my answer. Oh, Manuel's onto it. Well done, Manuel. So that is the big deal, that robbery involves the use of force. So it goes like this. Theft is everything. When I say theft, it means you take something without permission. So everything, all of these three are theft. Robbery is when there is the use of force or the threat of force. So force or the threat of force. So if someone says, give me that money now, that's robbery. It's also theft because all of them or theft. And then we have burglary. So burglary is when you have to trespass or break into property in order to steal something. So in order to commit theft, you have to break into the property. Okay, are you ready for another? Arrest versus charge. What do you think about this one? What's the difference here? We probably know arrest, but maybe we don't know charge. Both of these actions are things that the police do. But what's the difference between arrest and charge? And by the way, if you are enjoying the video today, make sure that you hit that subscribe, smash that like button. It's one of the most important ways that you can show your support. Arrest, you are handcuffed, that's right. And Julia says charge means you go to trial. That's normally true. Do we have any other comments about the difference? Charge, you have to pay money. Oh, that's a different kind of charge, Sonia. The kind of charge we're talking about here is different. It doesn't involve money. And Almost Really Happened also said that. No. This kind of charge is not like that. So arrest means the police will take you and they hold you. So they keep you. But charge is when the police, they officially say they think you have done a crime. And then the police charge you. And that means you have been formally accused of a crime. You are formally accused of a crime by the police. That's charge. So normally what will happen in an investigation is the police find a suspect, arrest them, take them to the police station, interview them, gather the evidence, and then they charge them. And when they charge the suspect, that means, as Julia said, probably there will be a court case because they have charged someone. All right, next we have witness versus accomplice versus victim. So witness, accomplice, victim. What's the difference? No, Manuel, that's not right about charge. Charge is not after you testify. Charge is before the court case. It's after the arrest, but before the court case. So Sleepwalker is in there saying witness is a person who saw the crime. That's right. What about accomplice and victim? Any ideas? Pronunciation? Accomplice. Accomplice. Sorry, my sound's clipping a little bit. Accomplice is a person who took part. Isn't that a criminal, Zoya? That's right, I know. So accomplice is a person who helps to commit the crime. That's not quite right, actually. Sort of. It's really someone who helps another person commit a crime. So someone who helps another person commit a crime. That's an accomplice when the criminal has an assistant. And then we have the victim. And the victim is the person who has done the crime. No. That's not right. It's the victim's fault. They did the crime. No, that's not quite right. That's an interesting way of putting it, Manuel. Could we say that in a clearer way? Zoya says, victim suffered from a crime. That's pretty good, Zoya. Yeah. Against whom the crime was committed. Okay, we have some nice language here today. All right, well done, folks. We have just one more of these. acquittal versus guilty versus sentence. What's the difference? What do you think about this, folks? Acquittal versus guilty versus sentence. Acquittal means a person isn't guilty. That's true, Sleepwalker, but can you tell us when the acquittal happens? Again, Zoya says acquittal is not guilty. That's true, but when does that happen? Sentence is a part of legal action. Well, Mina, all three of these are a part of legal action. Sentence is the verdict reached by a judge. That's not the correct use of the word verdict. Okay, let me give you my ideas here. So, acquittal is when the judge decides or says the suspect is innocent and closes the court case. So acquittal means you're innocent and we know it from the judge. Guilty means this person committed the crime. So a guilty person is the person who committed the crime. And if the court finds someone guilty, that means that the court has recognized someone committed the crime. Then we have sentence. So sentence is the punishment decided by the judge for a guilty suspect. So it's the punishment that the judge decides. That's the sentence. Sentencing happens after the court decides if someone is innocent or guilty. And if they are guilty, then we talk about the sentence, which is the punishment. Well done there to Welcome Vlogs. Thank you. All right, folks, let's move on here. So you can, of course, see some lovely, lovely vocabulary on your screen. And I want you to classify these words. This is a very useful way of familiarizing yourself with vocabulary on certain topics. So here we have the categories of crime, people, and legal process. And I want you to put those words into the different categories. So, can you categorize that vocabulary? Which of these are crimes? Which of them are people involved in crime? And which of them are part of the legal process? And while our live viewers work on that, I want to say to all you people watching the video later on, it's a great time to subscribe and smash that like button. Do make sure that you subscribe if you want more videos like this. It's a fantastic way to show your support. And if anyone wants to buy me a coffee, there is a link to do that down below the video. Feel free to do that if you wish. And if you do buy me a coffee, then I will take a request for a class. So if you buy me a coffee in the link down below, I will take a request for a class on a topic of your choosing, any grammar point, any vocabulary, any discussion point, whatever you would like. So Pallavi would like an example, and I can give you one, Pallavi. We're going to go for theft, and theft is a crime. Thank you, almost really happened. I spent about 30 minutes making that. We've got some good answers in, especially for people. The difficult one here often is legal process. That's why I have that as the third column. People, Pallavi, means people who are involved in crime. For example, a witness. And legal process is something that happens during the legal process, such as arrest. Basically, we have types of crime, people involved in crime, and everything else. So we do have quite a lot of answers coming in now, so I'll go through these. We've got theft, that's a crime. Fraud, that's a crime. Witness, that is a person. We have vandalism, that's a crime. We have accomplice, that is a person. And we've got arrest, that is legal process. Then we have police officer, that is a person. Then arson, which is a crime. Victim, which is a person. Robbery is a crime. Assault is a crime. Burglary is a crime. Lawyer is a person. Charge is a verb in the legal process. Imprisonment is a noun in the legal process. Acquittal is something that happens in the legal process. Sentence is something that happens in the legal process. And guilty is an adjective we use to describe people during the legal process. All right, so there are our answers on the screen. Crime, people, and legal processes. We are now going to look at these sections individually. We're going to start by looking at different types of crime. We have talked about some of these already. I would like you to match the words on the left with the definitions on the right, really focusing on vocabulary work today in that way. So, words on the left with the definitions on the right. And Sanjan says, "Morning, Rich. How's it going? It's not too bad. Is it morning where you are? I thought you were in France." Clearly not. Ashley Chen coming in with a 4E. And that is correct. Mina says 5A. And that is correct. Interesting you guys did the difficult ones first. Oh, you're in the US. Yeah, okay. You know the answer to that, Pallavi, because Mina just said it and got it right. And Zoya's done everything. And it looks correct. So another 30 seconds for everyone else. All right, and you can see the answers there at the bottom, courtesy of Zoya Arta. 1F, 2G, 3B, 4E, 5A, 6D, and 7C. All right, so that's our crime. Let's move on to people. We've got accomplice, victim, police officer, witness, lawyer, perpetrator, the accused, and judge. Wow, look at that. 2 full sets of answers which both seem correct coming in at the same time. So thank you very much. Well done, Sanjan. That is absolutely correct. Yes, that's correct. All right. So answers at the bottom. Thank you, everybody. And that means we are moving on to the language related to the legal process. And remember, this kind of vocabulary activity is quite useful for categorizing words and vocabulary that you already know. It's good for review and consolidation. However, if you want to actually get this vocabulary into your active vocabulary, if you want to improve your speaking, then you need to personalize examples of these words. So you need to try to use the phrases with some personalization. Active vocabulary is learnt actively. In other words, you need to do something with the vocabulary. And we can take a look at that just after this activity. That's right. Well done. Well done to Sleepwalker and Sonia Bertarini. That is absolutely correct. Fantastic. So you have your answers now at the bottom of the screen. So now let's do exactly what I just said. Let's have a little bit of practice. In order to get this vocabulary into our active vocabulary, in other words, so that this vocabulary is vocabulary that we can use, then we need to find a way to engage with that vocabulary. That can be personalization, or it can be interesting questions, like, how about this question? Which is worse, burglary or assault? And why do you think so? Obviously, the answer is it depends, but all things being equal, which is worse, burglary or assault? And why do you think so? This is a discussion question, and the idea of a question like this is that you engage with the vocabulary, and so the vocabulary becomes part of your active vocabulary. That is, the vocabulary that you use when you speak productively. Zoya says assault because a person can be hurt. But the thing is, Zoya, a person can be hurt in burglary as well. Because with burglary, you enter someone's house and there can be violence. Assault can lead to the death of a person. That's true, Sleepwalker. However, then we call it a different crime. All right, interesting answer from Shimi. It says burglary because it takes away all that you build up throughout life. Fridge, gold, money. I like how fridge is in there. It's like, they took my fridge and my gold. Do burglars really take fridges? Taking someone's fridge seems like a really bad idea. That's like the worst idea for a burglar in the world, is to steal fridges, surely. All right, let's have another question to engage with a different one of these. So, have you or anyone you know ever been a victim of fraud? What lessons did you learn from the experience? So, have you or anyone you know ever been a victim of fraud? What lessons did you learn from the experience? So, I've been the victim of fraud on at least 2 occasions. One time I lost nothing, but it was close. And the second time I lost a small amount of money, less than £10. And the lessons I learned are: be vigilant, and don't go on autopilot too much. So Alia says, my sister had been a victim of online fraud through online shopping. Oh, really? That kind of crime is very rare in the UK because the websites where that would happen are often filtered by Google. So, and since everyone uses Google for search, then it's quite rare that people will find a website that's not a legitimate website. Wow, Sonia says, I've been the victim of a burglary. That sounds terrible, Sonia. I imagine being the victim of burglary is really, really horrible. I mean, being the victim of any crime is pretty horrible. But burglary, it's your home. I can't imagine. Oh, that's an interesting one, Manuel. He said, my niece bought a car second-hand that doesn't have permission to be on the motorway. That's interesting. Why doesn't it have permission to be on the motorway, Manuel? Okay. Let's talk about one more. What do you think is a fairer way to decide if someone is guilty? A jury? Or a judge? What do you think is a fairer way to decide if a person is guilty? A jury or a judge? Manuel says, I'm absolutely anti-jury. I'm absolutely anti-jury. I'm absolutely anti-jury. Sleepwalker says, I think a judge is a fairer way to decide if someone is guilty. Why, though, Sleepwalker? Because, yes, that's a reasonable opinion. But why do you think that? And Zulkifli Jamil says, judged by social media. Yeah, well, we're all judged by social media. But this is indeed a problem which the United States seems to have, isn't it? Zoya says a jury because a few people can decide, not only one. Manuel says it's 3 judges that decide if you're guilty in Spain. Is that for every court case, Manuel? Because in the UK, we have a special type of court called a magistrates' court. And in that court, I believe there are 3 magistrates and they decide if someone's guilty. But that's only for very minor crimes. For serious crimes, we use a court that has 1 judge. Yeah, the court is called audiencia, which I think is probably magistrates. I imagine that audiencia is like something like magistrates' court. It's easier to bribe a judge, not a jury. Are you sure about that, Zoya? The thing is that judges have a lot of power and wealth. So you must have a lot of power and wealth to be able to bribe a judge. Alia says a fair judge could be much better because that's his job. And he has already taken the judge vow and have knowledge and training. We have the Supreme Court. Yes, of course, there is Supreme Courts in a lot of countries as well, Pallavi. The Supreme Court normally doesn't judge on individual cases. They judge on very important legal issues that lower courts cannot decide. That's very interesting, Manuel. That's like the opposite of our system. So ours is kind of the other way around. That a criminal act, you're judged by one, and for minor issues, you have several, I believe. I've never been accused of a crime, so in court, so I actually don't entirely know. Yeah, magistrate's court is not civil court necessarily. It can be for misdemeanors, as they say. A jury can be biased. So a jury can have bias. They can be biased, whereas a judge can be paid under the table. Yeah, right. So they both have problems. All right, everybody. So that brings us to the end of the lesson today. We're now into question time. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments about English. And you can, of course, find the notes from today in the link in the chat, which I will also put in down below this video. So if there's any questions on your mind about English or learning English, feel free to ask those in the chat, and I will answer them as we go. So we start off with Sleepwalker, who says, what is the difference between evidence and proof? Proof is more general. So we could say that evidence is proof of a... Wait, is that right? Crime? In the context of the police, anyway. This is quite a good explanation. So proof is a fact which demonstrates something to be true or real. And evidence is something which might demonstrate that something is real. Okay. Yeah, so there is a serious overlap there, isn't there? Proof is a fact which demonstrates something to be true or real. So proof is concrete and it's a fact. Whereas evidence is something, like fingerprints, which might demonstrate that something is real. So if I put this in, evidence is something, like a gun, which might demonstrate that something, like a crime, is real. And notice also with evidence we have the might. So often the police will collect the evidence from the scene of the crime. Is that Elena? Elena says, is it correct to say, where are you going? You can't have finished your homework already? Or should we use yet? Nice. You can't have finished your homework already. Yeah. All right. Nice. That's a good one, Elena. So basically, let me make myself a bit bigger. Hello. we teach that yet is the one to use in this situation. So teachers and course books will tell you to use yet, right? You can't have finished yet. However, in reality, you can definitely say that. You can definitely say that. The second one is a little more unusual. So we're going to say less common. Shows more shock, surprise. The fact that you're saying already is showing, whoa, that's before I thought, right? So you can't have finished yet. It's more common. More habitual. Or just everyday. More everyday language. You can't have finished yet. Versus you can't have finished already, which is less common and shows more shock, surprise. That's the correct word order, by the way. Or it's the best one. You can't have finished already. Because if we say you can't already have finished, or you can't have already finished, it doesn't sound quite as good. You can't have already finished is okay, actually. It's not as good as this, though. You can't have finished already, because then we can hit already with some stress at the end. You can't have finished already. I hope that helps. What is the difference between using motivating and motivational? Sleepwalker, do I have a video for you? I did a video about this, I think. This is... No, maybe I didn't, actually. Motivating, motivational. A motivational speaker. A motivating... it's a motivating book. It's a motivational book. Right, it's kind of, it's a bit weird, and there is some overlap, but something like this. So it's a motivating book, means it's a book which motivates you to do something. It's a motivational book, it's a book about motivation. However, a motivational speaker is someone who speaks to motivate people, which makes it sound different than the use of motivational here. But that's because it's just a strong collocation to say motivational speaker. We don't say a motivating speaker. We say a motivational speaker, who is someone who speaks to motivate people. However, in general use, motivating means it's something that motivates you, and motivational means it's about motivation. However, that's not what the Cambridge Dictionary says. But they use motivational speeches as the example. That's the thing. And that comes from that one. A motivational technique to get her to do better. Yeah, again, so a motivational technique. That's a technique about motivation. A technique in the area of motivation, isn't it? Whereas that technique was motivating means that technique caused someone to feel motivated. I think also it's about purpose. Like, it's a motivational book. It's a book about motivation. The purpose is motivation. Whereas it's a motivating book. The purpose could be anything. Like, I could say, like, Lord of the Rings. Right? Whereas it's a motivational book is like... You know, You Can Do It by Richard Branson, right? So it's something about the purpose that a motivating book is not a book about motivation. It's a book about something which causes motivation. Now we've got it. Now we've got it. And then we have Pallavi, who says, what was your dream job, teacher? Is it difficult to find a job in the UK? My dream job... What is my dream job? I should think about this more, eh? I don't know, but I like education. I think if I was the head of an educational institution, not for children, but for private individuals, so the head of a private educational institution, I think that would be interesting. I would be very interested about that. If I was an educational consultant or policy worker, that sounds rubbish. Policy manager, I think something like that would be very interesting as well. I'm very interested in education and how people learn. So something like that could be really good. In addition, I wouldn't be opposed to, I know this is a bit fancy, but I wouldn't be opposed to some sort of, let's say, games design, writing, or some other creative involvement. Quite interested in that. Or some kind of instruction, but not instructional design, I don't think. Instructional design is not my thing. Is it difficult to find a job in the UK? Everybody from other countries who comes to the UK says it's very difficult to find a job in the UK. All my students say that. They all say it's really difficult here to find a job. They say it's much more difficult. This includes Ukrainians who are coming from a war zone, and they come here and say it's really difficult in the UK to find a job compared to the Ukraine. Can you explain terms like open up a case, no case to answer? That's an interesting one, isn't it? Open up a case and no case to answer. I think these are legal terms, and I'm not sure that I'm qualified to give a good... Not sure that I'm qualified to give a good breakdown, but no case to answer is basically when the prosecution case is so weak that the defendant doesn't have to present a case in court. So you go to court, the prosecution presents their case, but it's very weak, and the defendant says there's no case to answer and doesn't present any case. So that's no case to answer. And then we had open up a case. Which I think I need a bit more context, because we could be talking about hiring a lawyer, or we could be talking about the police opening an investigation. Because the thing is about case, like when we talk about case, then it could mean sort of several different things. Like it could mean legal action, but it could mean a police investigation. Or it could mean an incident involving insurance. Like the insurance investigator has a case. So actually, when we use case, there's lots of things that could mean, and open up a case would just mean to start a new case. So we need the context to know what kind of case we're talking about. All right. Takeshi says, I've been struggling with the use of in which, of which, at which, and on which. Oh, I think I need some context for that, Takeshi. In which? Do you mean like this, Takeshi? Do you mean like, this is the pot in which I put my money? Do you mean like that? This is the group of which I am a part. Is that what you mean, Takeshi? I'll come back to you. Can you clarify? Alia says, I've learned English every day for 2.5 years, and the TOEFL result that I get is under my target. I do hope I can learn English more in a more effective and efficient way. So, Alia, a few things to tell you, right? Number one, 2.5 years is not a huge amount of time. I know if you feel like you're learning every day, then it feels like you've been learning quite for a long time. But languages kind of don't work like that. It's very difficult to learn languages quickly and intensively. It's much better to have a long-term perspective. Get yourself involved in the language at an interest level. Focus on engagement, interest, social activities that allow you to use the language, watching films, reading books, and just really make that into your passion. Don't think, oh, I have to sit down and study my English grammar today for 2.5 years, you know? Because that really is the path to extreme frustration. It's how I tried to learn Spanish first in 2008. And I used to do at least an hour a day, every day. And I did that for just over a year. And then I realized I wasn't making as much progress as I wanted, and I started to feel demotivated. And I went through something that you might be feeling now, which is called the intermediate plateau. And the intermediate plateau can be at B2 or B1, somewhere around there. And it's when you get to some sort of intermediate or upper intermediate level and start to go like this. And that's just naturally how things work with languages. Better that you then find a new approach, put the grammar book down for a bit, and engage with the language on a new level. Take up reading. If that's not what you want to do, start listening to podcasts. Do something new and different, and just basically, you need to balance what we call formal study, right? And language exposure. Right? So we need both these things. We need formal study and language exposure. But what I often find from my experience is that people who learn intensively, they have a lot of formal study and not so much language exposure. Now, you can get examples of people who are the other way. Like a lot of my students right now who live in the country, they have a lot of language exposure, but not all of them do enough formal study. So it is a balance, you need both. And if you don't live in an English-speaking country, then there's other ways to get language exposure. Radio, podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, loads of stuff. And it's all about enjoying it. It's all about just sinking into it like a lovely warm bath. And then reassess. So give it 3 months of relaxing into it, and then have another look. Pick up the grammar book again, and this time come at it with a new perspective. Also, Alia, if you'd like, you can book in a trial language test with me. ProfRich, spelt the Spanish way, at gmail.com. And I offer a free 30-minute, let's call it, language assessment. And shall I broadcast my prices? I suppose I can. And for anyone else who's interested, if you're interested from then onwards, it's £25 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours per month. And I take payments with Stripe. I have terms and conditions about cancellations and things like that, but you can get to that later. Email me if you're interested. I have basically no availability, but if you email me, then you get on the list, and eventually we work out a class for you. All right. Hope that helps, Alia. You can't have already finished. Yes, Sonia, I mentioned about that. It is okay, but I prefer putting already at the end here. Mujahid says, am I late? Yes, you are. And Alia says, thank you, Angel Gordillo. Have you ever written a book and getting an editor for it? I'm sorry, are you asking me, Manuel? I have written a book, a short book. I've never had an editor for it. The thing is, I like writing, and I'm not too bad, but I hate forcing myself to write. I like writing freely. I hate forcing myself to write. And so I was a games journalist for almost 10 years, and it started to drive me crazy. Takeshi says, how would you tell if someone's saying, I like to eat cake and I'd like to eat cake? That is so subtle, send a fast pace, I can't recognize it and get confused. Right. The answer there, Takeshi, is context. So, for example, imagine this. What do you want to do now? I'd like sweet cake. Okay then. Right. We know in the context what he's saying. We can guess, right? It's like your brain fills in the gap. Right? Alternatively, something like what's your favourite dessert? Well, I like to eat cake. It's simply that, Takeshi. So the point is not to focus on the pronunciation difference between I and I'd. Okay, and actually this also applies to basically all pronouns. So when you're looking at pronoun differences, like she's not great, he's not great, they're not great, she's not great, he's not great. Who's got it? She's got it, he's got it, she's got it, he's got it. Things like that, pronoun differences, they often are very contextual. So, understanding what the pronoun is depends more on context than pronunciation. So, hearing the correct pronoun depends more on context than pronunciation. For example, think about this. Let me tell you something. Let me say this. My sister's very tall. He likes to play basketball. So I mispronounce the pronoun. I say he likes to play basketball. But if I say this, most people won't even... Most people won't actually notice my mistake. They won't notice the mistake because they have the context of my sister. So their brain will automatically insert the correct pronoun, even if I make a small mistake here with the pronoun. And that happens a lot of the time if someone makes this kind of mistake. If a very advanced learner with good pronunciation and fast speech makes a pronoun mistake, most people don't notice because they hear the context and they don't focus on the very minor pronunciation difference. So the important takeaway, Takeshi, is that comprehension is contextual. It's not entirely based on sound difference. It's also based on the context. Context is key. I think there was a pretty good YouTube teacher who did a video about that about 2 years ago. Maybe you can find it. Yep, Manuel, we say that as well. Yes, monarchy means kings and queens. The monarch is the one ruler. Monarch. One ruler. So it's kind of like arc is like government and mon is like one. So monarch, one ruler. Monarchy, a system with one ruler. So yes, kings and queens. On the subject of crime, in particular the UK environment, terms or expressions like the Old Bailey, Cop or Copper, Crown Court, Scotland Yard often crop up in the news. Wow! I have to say, Zulkifli, you've got some good, interesting stuff going on there. Are you studying law? Yeah, they do. And you'll find that the news media in any country have a system of jargon and contextual terms related to that country. So yeah, it's true, they do. But basically we have the Old Bailey as the central criminal court, and Scotland Yard's the police, the police HQ. As you probably know from Sherlock Holmes, it's not based in Scotland, by the way. When I was a kid, I used to think Scotland Yard was in Scotland. And I always thought, why do they have the police headquarters in Scotland for crimes in London? There will be some homework, Pallavi. I'm gonna write something about that. I really want to study a case. Can you explain what you mean, Pallavi? What do you mean by study a case? First clause plus... Okay, let me see this, Takeshi. First clause plus preposition plus which plus second clause. I don't understand which preposition I should use in a given situation. Okay. 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 Let's just think about this a minute, because it is not necessarily the best way of speaking anyway. So let's say... This was the house in which we lived. Another way of saying that is this is the house which we lived in. And another way is to say we lived in this house. Okay? Now you can notice that the prepositions here are consistent. We lived in the house. This is the house which we lived in. This is the house in which we lived. So that's where the preposition comes from. How about this? Home is the place which at which I am. Home is the place which I am at, and I am at home. Once again, we can see the preposition is consistent. I am at home. Home is the place which I am at, and home is the place at which I am. And there we can start to see now where this preposition's coming from. Talking about these different forms, the first one is very formal. The second one is informal neutral. Not very formal, just formal. Let's call this one informal. And I am at home is neutral and basic. Okay? What else did you say? You said in which, at which, what was the other? To which or something? Of which and on which. Yeah, it's just the same. It's the same thing, Takeshi. So if you get a sentence like, just make an active sentence like, I put my book on the table, right? This is the table on which I put my book. This is the table which I put my book on. And I put my book on the table. All right? And the final one was to which. In which, of which, on which, at which, of which, yeah, again. So, I'm tired of your, no. I'll never be tired of your lovely face. Okay? I'll never be tired of your lovely face. Your lovely face is the thing which I'll never be tired of. And your lovely face is the thing of which I'll never be tired. Bingo. All right, I hope that helps, Takeshi. Sonia Bottarini says, how can I become more confident in speaking? Book a free 30-minute language assessment consultation, Sonia. I'm quite busy over Easter, but if you send me an email, we can work something out, and I'll give you some tips. But aside from that, just know that speaking in another language is difficult. It is not easy. It is more scary than speaking in your own language. Everyone feels like that. So, that means it's an opportunity to grow as a person. It's an opportunity to grow in confidence. So build it up slowly, Sonia. Practice. Talk to people. Make friends. Speak to good people who give you good feedback and positive encouragement. Don't fixate on mistakes. Focus on communication aims. So when you're talking to someone, the important thing is, do they understand me? My point. Can I communicate what I want? That's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you use past simple instead of past perfect continuous. It doesn't matter if your prepositions are not quite right. What matters is, do they understand? Can I communicate? Communication is everything. Fluency is king. I do believe that some YouTube teacher made a video about that about 18 months ago. See if you can find that. How do I know when to use ing form in or infinitive in cleft sentences? For example, what I want is to sleep. What I can't stand is getting up early. That's an easy one, Anawat. It's the verb. After want, you use to infinitive, and after can't stand, you use ing form. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if there's any others you want me to clear up. But I think that's it. No problem, Alia. Hope it helps. And no problem, Shimi. Hope it helps. A dictionary? A dictionary? What do you mean, dictionary? You know, I wonder how dictionary sales are doing these days. Oh, stayed in the UK for 5 years. Are you still in the UK, Zulkifli? Are you still follow the news and events from the UK? Well, I'll tell you what, Zulkifli, I live in the UK and I ignore the news and events from the UK. Pallavi wants to investigate a crime. That would be really fun, Pallavi, but maybe I need to prepare a good homework for that. It's quite difficult to... It's really good for modal verbs for deduction if you have a good one. Oh, I've got an idea. Have I got an idea? Yeah, I think I've got an idea. All right, we can have some homework like that. I have an idea. Let me just get my material ready to show you. I have a feeling, though, that I'm going to put this material up and it's going to be confusing. I hope not. It will require imagination. Have you got your imagination shoes on? You're going to need to be imaginative. If you're feeling imaginative, then it could work. But I need to find it also. I haven't done this activity in class in ages because it's from a really old book, but it's a wonderful activity. A wonderful activity, really fun, and it relates to crime, and it's perfect. So thank you for reminding me about that. It's not where I thought it was. Got it. Okay, great. I'll show you that in a minute. Crime Topic's popular. Yes, it is. And Pachu says, I watch most of your videos. All are perfect. Well, thank you, Pachu. I don't think they are perfect. Otherwise, I would have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, but thank you very much. Yes, again, Pachu, I do try. I have a few industry qualifications. I know people with more, but I try to present my perspective using academia, but also my experience as a teacher, because sometimes I think the science is not quite right, because my experience is different. Other times I think the science is important. There's a lot of unqualified teachers out there on YouTube and in language centres, and I think that can be damaging for students. I see many structures ing form after comma. What's the purpose of this? There's a few purposes for that, Pachu. Like, something like that. And that is sometimes called a gerundial clause, or sometimes it can be called a reduced clause, or a reduced relative clause sometimes. And basically it's when we miss out some words. So we could replace this with, it fell off the table and smashed into pieces on the floor. But instead we take out and we change it to ing, and then we put it like that instead. It's quite an advanced area of grammar, and I can't really go into it right now. It's the kind of thing that really you need to prepare to talk about and to do a lesson on. I could do a lesson on it if you want. If you buy me a coffee down in the link below, then maybe I'll do you a lesson on it. Just ask for a lesson on gerundial clauses, and I'll do my best. It's an advanced grammar area, and there's actually several different reasons why we use it. They love the film, of which I'm not a big fan. Yes, it's right. Remember, though, it's formal. So remember, the informal version is they love the film I'm not a big fan of. It just sounds a bit weird, though. Would anyone really say this? They love that film that I'm not a big fan of. Which I'm not a big fan of. It's correct. It's grammatically correct. Too many teachers spoil the broth. I can't remember what you're talking about. They will come in handy for my writing, though. Yeah. Well, I mean, in writing, it's unlikely you'll use a big fan, because that's quite informal. But you have the right idea. I think you've understood my point. So that's excellent. They love the film, of which I'm not a big fan, is correct. All right then, everybody. Oh, homework. Haha, homework. Right, so homework assignment. Plan a robbery using the information below. Record yourself speaking about your plan. You can use notes, but do not read from a script. So that is the homework assignment, and maybe most of you think that I've gone insane, but I haven't. You're going to pretend to plan a robbery using the information below. Here's the information. So you have a map of a museum, and you need to steal the diamond. And you have some information about the museum, and the information is very important. So make sure that you use the information. So the first task really is read the information. Read the information first, look at the map, and then record yourself speaking about your plan. A maximum of 3 minutes. You can use notes, but do not read from a script. And if you want some examples of language, you don't have to use this. But if you would like some useful language examples, then you can look at the next page, and there's some useful language there for the task. So that's your homework for today, folks. Deadline is April 6th. Although there might not be a class on April 6th. I'll let you know about that as we go. Thank you very much for joining me today, everybody. If you still have not smashed that like button, then what are you doing? Get your hand on that like button and smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Welcome to the most fun place on the internet to learn English. I answer all comments. I will answer all questions in the live chats. And I'm here to be the best damn YouTube teacher that I can be, if possible. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your week. May all of your glorious and holy dreams come true. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. My name has been ProfRich, and I will catch you later.